In this exercise, I'll show you how to assign color to characters of type, as well as the text frame that contains those characters, from the swatches and color panels. I'm working inside a document called coloringtype.indd. Notice that I'm working on page 2 of this document. Let's say we want to change the color of the word Turriorumquo, which is the first word of this paragraph. I'll select the Type tool here in the toolbox, and then I'll double-click on the word to select it. Now, color is a character-level formatting attribute in InDesign, but you wouldn't know it from the control panel, which offers no color options whatsoever. Instead, you assign color from either the Swatches panel or the Color panel. Let's start with the Swatches panel, which contains saved colors. I'm going to go up to the Window menu and choose the Swatches command, or I could press the F5 key, or I could click on this little Swatches icon over here on the right side of the screen. Any of those options will bring up the Swatches panel. Now, the Swatches panel contains those colors that you've taken the time to save as you've been working inside of a document. After selecting the type, you want to make sure that the fill is active. So see this little black T in the background here? I'm going to click on it to make sure that I'm changing the fill color, which is the color of the interior of the letters. And then I'll go ahead and assign a color by clicking on it. For example, I'm going to click on this green right here. And that changes the color of the type to green. Now, it looks like it's rose in our case, but that's because the type is selected, and so the color is inverted. In order to see what the color really looks like, I'll press the Escape key, which deselects the text and returns to the Selection tool. And now we can see that Turriorumquo is indeed green. If you want to change the color of all text inside of a text frame, select it with the Selection tool. Then, make sure the fill is active here in the Swatches panel, which it is for me, and assign your color. I'll go ahead and click on this bright violet. Notice, however, that goes ahead and assigns the color to the frame, not to the text. That's a function of this neighboring option right here, Formatting Affects Container, which, when I hover over it, tells me that the formatting will affect the container, meaning, of course, the text frame. I'll go ahead and press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that modification. To affect the text instead of the text frame, I'll click on this T icon, and notice that tells me that formatting will affect the text. And now I can see that the fill of the text is this dark blue-green color right here. I could change it to any other color I like. For example, I'll click on this light brown right here. Now, that's not really what I want, and in fact, none of these swatches really interest me. So I'm going to dial in my own custom color, and I can do that by going to the Window menu and choosing the Color command, or I could press the F6 key, the neighboring function key, or I could click on this little paint palette icon right there. And if I do, I'll bring up the Color panel. If I'm working from a swatch, I'll see just one slider labeled T for Tint, which allows me to make this color lighter, which is not what I want at all. So I'm going to change it back to the darkest version of that color. Instead, what I want are the RGB sliders, which allow me to dial in the red, green, and blue color primaries, which are appropriate for a screen document like the one I'm creating here. So I'm going to go up to this menu icon in the upper right corner of the Color panel. I'll click on it, and I'll choose RGB. Now I have these red, green, and blue sliders, which is perfect. I'm going to reduce the green, take the red down a little, take the blue down as well. I want to get kind of a rich red-brown going on. And this looks pretty good to me, something fairly chocolatey. And you can see it applied to the text on the fly. You can also see the modifications your changes will make live and updated here inside the Color panel sliders. Alright, this looks pretty good to me. Now, imagine this is a color that I might use in the future. I should save it off as a swatch. So I'll return to the Swatches panel by clicking on this icon. Then I'll go to the bottom of this panel and click on this little page icon in order to create a new swatch. InDesign even goes ahead and names the swatch for me automatically. I think I'll move this swatch up to live up here with my RGB colors instead of my CMYK values down at the bottom. And then I'll close the Swatches panel by clicking on this double arrow icon. Alright, now you might think it's kind of odd that InDesign favors the text frame over the text inside of it when applying color to an object selected with the Selection tool. In fact, it makes a lot of sense under the right circumstances. I'm going to scroll down to page 3 of this document, and notice this headline right here. It's set inside of a large text frame. What I'd really like to do, instead of it being black text against a white page, I'd like it to be white text inside of a gray frame. So I'll select the text with the Selection tool. Then I'll bring up the Swatches panel once again. Note that the fill is active, and so is the container icon. Now let's drop down to this gray color and click on it to assign it. And that changes the color of the frame. Now let's change the color of the text by clicking on the little T icon and switching it from black to paper, which is the same as white. And there you have it. That's how you assign color to text and text frames inside InDesign.